Okay, people. So we're taking a look at this new documentary. It is called "Is There Anybody Out There?" It is written and directed by Ella Glendining. Right. It is produced by Janine Marmot. Executive produced by Lisa Marie Russo, and consultant produced by Jane Ray. Erland Cooper handles the music, while Anna Marie Lean-Vercoe is on cinematography. Rachel Roberts edits the piece. We got Scott Snyder, Adam Wood on sound. Yeah, that's kind of it, really. Uh, so, right, the gist of this is while navigating daily discrimination, a filmmaker who inhabits and loves her unusual body searches the world for another person like her and explores what it takes to love oneself fiercely despite the pervasiveness of ableism. So, yes, that, people, is it. Um, yeah, it is. It's interesting, right? I did find it interesting because I think we start off and like Ella is talking about the fact that she has this unusual condition and she doesn't know anyone else with it. And she's like, I need to find someone else with this same condition. But that, I mean, so we have that. And then she interviews her parents and some other people. But the focus seems to shift all over the place a lot of the times, without a clear, okay, I'm looking for people with the goal of or the understanding of it. I didn't think the focus was fully there. Also, the rationale of looking to find someone the exact same thing as you, where we're all so different, right? Like everyone, even if if you are blind, there's so many different degrees of blindness, right? It's not all the same. You're not usually going to find someone with exactly the same as you. So that was very curious. Now, we do get this deep dive into her life, right? She is pretty open on most things, right? And so we learn that early on that she's pregnant, so she has a baby, and just all of this different stuff. But we see her traveling, we see her navigating, talking to medical professionals, just all of this different thing, which is interesting, right? Because I think even the interactions with her friend who has autism, it really shows, right, the difference and the presumptions that can be made, right? Which, yeah, real, real interesting. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things that I was just like, yo, I relate to that. You know what I mean? Like just the whole, trying to find work and everything else. And it's just like, you just feel left out, right? You just feel detached from it all. You know, I think that's very regardless of what an issue might be, I think that is something that is universal. We get a lot of um, archive footage from her childhood, but then from other things like adverts and documentaries from back in the day. And there's one documentary with this little boy called Kevin, and he's got a condition with short arms and short legs, like real short arms and real short legs, you know. And in this documentary, his mum's like, he, you know, well, the questions are crazy. The way they're talking about it is just crazy. And his mum's like, oh, he'll never get married. He'll never have a family. He'll never have a job. And you're just like, oh my God. Oh my God. It is just like, yo, that's a brutal thing to say, right? I think you like maybe she thinks it, but to say it on a documentary that's gonna be there, right, in the world for forever now. That's a crazy motherfucking thing to say, right? But there's another documentary where this woman in a wheelchair is volunteering at a children's center for disabled kids. And the woman interviewing her is like, do you ever wish that, you know, maybe your parents aborted you when you were a baby? And I'm just like, what do you want her to say? Yeah, I'm a waste of space. I shouldn't be here. It's fucking insane, right? It's insane, some of the things that were said back then, but it's not surprising, right? When we look at the world and all the things that have been going on, nothing surprising. I mean, just the way people deal with disability now, right? The barriers that are in place are shocking, right? And just the weird mentality around it, you know. But there was things in the documentary which I didn't necessarily agree with, right? Because when she joined this Facebook group, and I'm just like, anything on social media is crazy, but any groups can be crazy, just regardless of their online or offline, you know. But it was a lot of you know, people in the group who have similar-ish conditions to Ella, right? And so it's it's the parents, right? The parents in the group talking about their little kids and looking to get certain operations done and everything like that. And she's real against the operations and like, oh, you know, we're great the way we are and we shouldn't have to change and blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, I understand that. But I think the thing that was getting missed was a lot of the kids were in pain, right? She was talking to one woman whose daughter Dylan was going into surgery, gonna get this surgery done. And it's like when they talk about the surgery, it's intense, right? But the problem was with Dylan, she's in because the way her foot and ankle were, like the foot was so far forward that she's walking on the ankle bone, right? So she was always in pain. And dealing with chronic pain every day, every minute, every hour, that's not fun, people. Trust me, that is not fun. So I understand people going, yeah, we'll do this surgery. Because if it stops the pain, yeah, that's the main thing here. Right? It's not necessarily like, oh, I want my kid to be 6 foot tall. It's just like, if it's just like, I want them to be able to live without pain. Right? That's the big thing. And that seemed to be missed in this, which I get. Because I think when you're in something, you can be very blinkered to, well, this is the way I see it. This is my situation, and I'm against this, right? So you don't really listen to anything else, right? So I think there's that. There's a lot of use of ableism and ableists. You know, it's an ableist world, all these ableisms and all of this kind of thing. And it's just like, listen, not everything is that, right? Now, you can say when they're building a new building, right, and they don't put in ramps or they don't make, lifts and doors wide enough for wheelchair, you can say that's fucked up, right? In an old building, in an old theater, right? Some of these theaters around London and just, anywhere, they're so old, you can't change it. You can't change the building, right? You can't put a lift in. You can't make the door bigger. Right? You can't even put a ramp in because it's a national heritage site sometimes, right? So there's things where I'm just like, yo, I get that, right? I get certain restrictions, right? And I don't expect, like with me, I don't expect everything just to change because I can't see for shit. You feel me? But there's certain things where you're just like, well, that could have been, right? There's certain things where people are just being lazy about a design issue, you know what I mean? Or just some forethought before they do a thing, you know? So I think you have to weigh up situations. Not everything is against you, right? But yeah, when every day is a fight, essentially, it can feel like everything is against you for sure. So I do understand a lot of the things that young Ella is dealing with, but I did think it was interesting in this. And I mentioned earlier, with her friend who has autism, right? Her friend's like, yes, sometimes you've said things that made me feel sad because it's like it didn't seem that you understood what I go through, right? But then she's just like, but I might have done that to you because I can't imagine what you go through. So it is just what it is. You know what I mean? Like, and that's a big thing, I feel, So when we look at this, not everyone's against you, not everything's against you. But I think sometimes people don't understand things, right? And will say things in a certain way because they just don't really get it, which is fine, right? It's fine. But when they do find out, if they continue to say the thing, mm, then they're a bit of a shit. You get me? But I think you have to give people a learning curve, a grace period of trying to understand something. But she does say a few times that her body is shocking. I really think it's shocking. It's just different. And so many people are different, right? So you've got some crazy tall people. You've got short people, right? That aren't classified. You know what I mean? They're not short enough to be classified as having dwarfism or something like that, but they're crazy short. Sometimes you see a short person, like it's usually girls, right? As real short girls are crazy tall. The amount of short girls that are like, I only like 6 foot guys, right? Which can be real, just like, yo, what? Shannon Lee, I'm looking at you, right? But it is what it is. Like, it's not crazy. Right, you've got obese people, crazy thin people, right? You've got different skin tones, right? Via LIGO. There's just so many different things. Right? We're not all the same. You know what I mean? So when you see someone slightly different, it's just like, meh, whatever. They're different. But are they cool? You know what I mean? Like, are they a nice person? You know, because that's the big thing here. That's the big thing, right? I went to school with a few deaf people and that, like that. There was one kid, Danny, right? He was deaf. Didn't really matter. He was a dick. That was the issue, right? You know what I mean? Him being deaf was not an issue. Him just being a complete and utter dick, that was the issue, right? And that's what it is. It's just like, I think we just look at people for who they are, not what they look like or talk like or anything stupid like that. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's an interesting documentary. I don't know what it actually brings to the table other than if anyone with a similar condition to Ella sees it and might, you know, feel encouraged, then that's all great, right? Other than that, like as I said, the message is all over the place. The focus is all over the place. You know what I mean? But I mean, there was one bit when she found out she's pregnant, and she's like, "Oh, people often ask about, you know, like, oh, well, will the kid be like me?" And rah, rah, rah. And I'm just like, well, it's not genetic, but I think I'd be more connected to the kid if it is, which is kind of a crazy thing to say, right? Because that shouldn't even matter. You know what I mean? Like it shouldn't really matter either way. It's like she asks her parents, "Oh, why am I only a child?" Right? Was it because you didn't want another one like me? And they're like, "Oh, we didn't think about it." And her mom's like, "Oh, I would have loved to have another child like you." And it's just like some of the answers you feel people say because they're on TV and they don't want to say anything crazy. But it's just like, yo, you love whoever comes. You know what I mean? It's not like, yo, I'm like, if I had a kid and the kid was blind, it's not like, oh, we're gonna bond so much more. No, you know what I mean? It's just like you just be whatever the kid is that's the thing, right? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. But yeah, I don't know. Man, I'm just too long in the tooth to look at things in certain ways, man. But yeah, as I said, right? If any kids with similar conditions will watch this and think, yo, if she can do all of this stuff, I can do this stuff. I feel, you know what I mean? Like the world isn't as bad as I was thinking it is, then that's great. Yeah. So, is there anybody out there is now available on Netflix?